If you're in my situation, if you're watching this, you're overweight or you're wondering where to start with that. In my personal opinion, if you look at a hierarchy of needs, your health should be number one. So if your foundation is not solid, just focus on that. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything else. Just get the things done you need to get done and carve out that hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, if that's what it takes to start. That's where I started, was 10-minute walks, and just get your health right.
How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another edition of the Tactical Empire. Today I am joined by Chris Williams. What's up, man? How are you, Chris?
What's going on, man? I'm good. How are you?
Good. Let's tell the folks a little bit about yourself. Quick, short bio, if you will.
Let's see, I'm 40 years old. I've been a gym owner for the last 8 years of my life when I realized I didn't want to work for anyone else ever again. Have expanded that into real estate and a little bit of business coaching. And honestly, I've been coached by you for 3 years now? Almost?
Probably.
Close to it?
Yeah. And it's been a fun ride, dude. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah.
Well, you just recently started your own podcast, right?
I did. Maybe 7 months ago or so, I started the Morning Dig podcast, a 5-minute introductory podcast, just a hype machine for Monday mornings, help people get their week started right with a little bit of motivation. So just talking about topics that are on my mind or situations that I've been worked through. And then I just kind of offer what I did and how I thought about it and how they can use that in their own life.
I love it, man. I love it. I've listened to some episodes. They're awesome. They're short and sweet. You get straight to the point. You can binge listen to them. No, they're good, man. They're really good. So congratulations. That was the Morning Dig. Make sure you go subscribe. It's on all the podcast channels. So check it out. Tell me what you're up to now. So you own the gym, you own a short-term rental, and you own some long-term rentals in Texas. You live in California. And so tell me about what's going on in Chris Williams' life coming in 2024.
Well, speaking of the short term, that actually is being listed as of today, off market to investors. So I realized at a mastermind, 3-4 weeks ago that it wasn't really serving me. It took a lot of my mental capacity, but wasn't what I wanted. And only owning one didn't really serve my future the way I wanted it to. Yeah. So for me, the best situation was to sell it, take the equity, and from the improvements, as well as just the market there is red hot.
Sure.
And move it into multifamily. So that's where we're looking right now, is to get into multifamily and start really focusing on legacy properties.
Good. I think people underestimate the work that's involved in the short-term rental game. And if you don't have the intention to go in and buy 5 of them to like make the cash flow actually worthwhile, I just don't think it's a great play. People underestimate like the amount of bandwidth it's going to take to operate those properties, even if you're not the manager, because there's just so much going on with them. You're buying an active business with daily clients and a management team in the middle. And so there's just logistically a lot. I don't own, full transparency, I don't own any short-term rentals. I wouldn't want to own any unless I was going to do 5 minimum, because I would want to build it to a point where we had some economies of scale and could start like really utilizing some of my skills, if you will. If I was going to spend time on it, I would be building an internal management team and things like that. I would want to own 5 of them in the same area. So you can start leveraging certain things and relationships and things like that. So I also think that was a very smart move of you to capture the equity and moving on down the road too. People oftentimes, I mean, we deal with a lot of investors who are really tried and true. They hang on to everything. I'm in the same boat. I don't like selling anything, but like there's a point to be a little more sophisticated where you understand that you've captured that equity and how can you roll it into the next thing. And so you're gonna capture that equity, and instead of one short-term rental, you're gonna pull it out, dump that equity in a asset that's probably double the value, and so you'll add double the top line to your personal financial statement, and the income will probably be a lot more as well. Gross and net will probably be more as well, I would guess, certainly.
Yeah, then and for me, my situation originally was get the tax situation set up correctly.
Yep.
My wife is a massive W-2 earner, so anything we could get, asset wise that could help against that was obviously goal number one.
Sure.
We crushed that out of the park per 2023 taxes. So my focus shifted immediately to how do we maximize income and how do we maximize retirement, everything. Like how do we create a legacy? And to me, multifamily was, a way to really drive doors, right? Just really maximize effort and every dollar that we use in a way that allows us to expedite that process.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm having very similar conversations with some other guys too. Because people don't really understand like how observant to your debt equity you need to be. And not that was debt equity necessarily, but there was a lot of locked up equity in a property that wasn't producing nearly the ROI that it has the capability of if redeployed. And so there's that. That's a super undervalued take on things that people don't understand. Is like if you've got let's say you own a $500,000 property and you've got $200,000 in it, you can take that $200,000 out of that property by selling it or cash out refining or something like that, and you can buy $1 million property, $1 million worth of properties, and which is what you're going to do. So you're doubling your gross with regards to the asset that you're holding, and people a lot of times just feel more comfortable with like a big old debt to equity ratio, like, oh, I'm 50%, 50-50 on this thing or whatever. And that's fine. It's important for some balance and not to get over leveraged. But at some point you got to tap into that stuff because you need to be using it right now. So,
yeah. And that's where I'm at, right? Like if this is a property my family used too, I might be a little more considerate of keeping it because it's,
sure.
it also creates memories and there's value in that. And
yeah,
cash out refinance makes more sense. But for something that to me was emotion free, it's a property, it's a business, and I'm going to leverage that business in the best way possible for today as well as the future. Selling it became a no-brainer.
I love it, man. I love it. And you personally have been on a big kind of personal development journey over the last few years, right? What do you think, if you had to pinpoint something, was like, I know this is a loaded question, it's too big, but like, what do you think's been most impactful to you? What, as far as you versus you in 2020?
Oh shit. I mean, being 100 pounds lighter kind of has a lot, helps a lot. It's a lot of weight off your shoulders, physically and metaphorically.
Yes.
But I think losing the weight, it wasn't necessarily losing the weight, but the process. You learn a lot of patience, right? You learn a lot of discipline. You learn a lot about what you're physically and mentally capable of doing. And in the heat of battle, right? I mean, when you're in the gym and you start getting fit, I mean, it becomes more of like a you versus you thing than I just need to get this done because I have to. You're at a level of physical capability where when the going gets tough, it kind of activates a different level of mindset and a different level of effort. And I think that translates into every bit of that's translating to everything, right? The 2020 version of me would probably be in the corner crying, balled up in tears over the short-term rental and some of the other stuff I have going on with my businesses and then my health shit and everything else. Like I probably would not have been able to handle even half of that, let alone just kind of strolling along, knowing that it's all going to figure itself out. Like all I got to do is, make smart decisions.
Yep. It's funny how your capacity stretches, right? And so like, but I don't think we understand how like sedated we are until we start to change, right? Because like it's just like, oh, I stopped doing this or whatever. I never knew how good I could feel. I think that the common people most people, majority of society walks around like feeling like shit, having average mental health, and it's because they are just consumed with getting by, if you will, and like until you take control of your variables and start consistently behaving a certain way, you really can't focus on anything more than just getting by, right? And I'm talking about in any area. And so it's super cool to watch you go on this journey, and have so much success. And what you're seeing is the fruits of it. And as you clear more space, open yourself up to more opportunities. And you're like, oh, my capacity is so much larger now. Because before I would have been able to this would have put me underwater. So of course you're not going to take on the next opportunity because you're drowning with this fucking one, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just fun to watch, man. It's fun to watch where you're going and kind of follow along. So what are you doing right now? You're eating keto, is that right?
I'm doing meat based, so not so much fat. I'm not eating, giant melted balls of cheese and like, spoonfuls of peanut butter like the weird keto people. But mainly just red meat, eggs, salt. I mean, I allow myself to go outside of that because I've done it enough that I know what works and what doesn't. When I travel, it's a lot of cheeseburger patties, it's a lot of eggs, it's a lot of whatever I can find from restaurants that make it simple for me, so I don't have to freak out about it.
Yep.
I was just gone all weekend, and I think I ate a majority of my diet was steak, eggs, and apparently we ate at like the hottest LA cheeseburger joint. We didn't even realize. We got a DoorDash. It was really good, but ate a ton of smash burgers. So,
love it, man. That's good. And so when are you guys leaving California? That's the real question.
There's two different answers. Mine is eventually. Hers is at this point never. So, it's just I don't know, man. I feel like if we hold on long enough, I could kind of, be the rat king and king of this place if I just hold on long enough. But at the same time, like, I don't know. We'll see. We have certain things holding us back here. She's got her companies that do really well. She and her whole family's here.
Yep.
For me, I'm a little less tied down. My parents live in Southern California. Like, there's not a lot holding me here from that level. But at the same time, it's like my companies are here.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I hear you. I wasn't trying to get you in trouble. So you've been going down the rabbit hole on leadership recently, right? Tell me a little bit about that.
Man, that's been a crazy journey. Whew.
Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about it.
So I always felt like my leadership was okay. But what I realized was it was like 50%. right? I had the give people opportunities and invest in your staff part down,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't have the actual capacity and knowledge of how do you actually communicate with them, and the whole, how do you make them feel valued? How do you encourage them and, maximize that investment that you're making? How do you, more of the X's and O's
Yep.
than the, the, the investment part, right? The money part I had down. Hey man, we're going to go do this. I'm going to give you money to do this. I'm going to encourage you to do that. I'm going to give you the freedom to learn and fail and do all these things, but I didn't have the X's and O's part down. So I think I've read 12 books in the last 4 months on leadership. I have really dug into listening very carefully to you and Sean on what you guys discuss when it comes to leadership. I have just paid really close attention to people that are doing things well, that have a really great retention rate with their staff, that are extracting value, right? Because the value has to go back both ways. And man, it's been a whirlwind. I feel like I'm a completely different person in terms of that part of it.
So what was the impetus? What was the impetus to go down this journey of leadership?
Part of it was winning an award last year for leadership at a fitness gym owner summit. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing up here. That was the first thing I said to myself. I was like, I didn't do shit to earn this. Like, I don't know why I'm here. Right. And then, they're like, oh, you brought all these people and all that, and you spend, and you invest in them. And I'm like, that doesn't feel like leadership to me. So I was like, I feel like I want to actually like earn this shit and feel like that award means something. So it really drove me to like, how do I become a better leader? How do I get to a point of leadership to where I can step out of this business and really explore those other things I want to do, like multifamily and everything, while maintaining the legacy of what I've developed here. Because, being someone that was so overweight, this matters a lot to me.
Yeah.
So the legacy of what we do here still matters a lot to me. But from a financial standpoint, I know I'm never going to make the money and the legacy for my family that I want, but I can still have the legacy here of knowing that we're changing lives, and that the thing that we've developed and I put a lot of effort and sweat equity into can continue to grow and create opportunities for others. And ultimately 30 years down the line, right, have this massive impact on our community. Yep. But at the same time, if my leadership is done correctly, I can put my effort into the other things that financially are going to give me the peace of mind that I want. Sure.
Yeah. And I totally understand that. Having come from the gym world myself, I understand the good-hearted, positive impact that you're able to have on your community and how meaningful that is. And so I totally understand that. And having coached business owners for a long time, or gym owners for a long time, it's really something that I had always kind of had a dichotomy with regards to, because there is a ceiling in that service-based business that you really are going to max out your earning potential at some point. So your financial aptitude and how you are able to invest your money to make it go to work for you is of the utmost importance, so that you can spend time doing what you're passionate about. And if that's helping people or positively impacting your community, like, I think that that's very valuable, because ultimately, like, that is what is fulfilling. Right. And so, but like, if you're a great private trainer or something, and that's what you really thrive and love doing, but you also are caught in this juxtaposition where you would love to make $5 million. Like, you're, it's a weird yin and yang of being pulled in two different directions in the gym owner space. Cause like, if you really want to make money in that space, like real money, like you've got to scale to a level that most can't conceive. And so you can make a nice living, but like, as you have found, but you're doing it right, in my opinion. You're looking for these other opportunities that maybe I can buy an apartment complex. Maybe I can buy another franchise that's in a different sector or something like that, and make my money go to work for me. If you're prudent that way, I mean, you could be the personal trainer or the private trainer that is eventually sitting there making $5 million, where your investments are outpacing everything you're doing with your daily time, which just makes it more fun too, right? Then you coach clients for free if you wanted to. Like, it doesn't matter. So that's super, super cool, man. I know you're a huge hearted dude, and like that's a very important aspect of things. What do you think's going on, or what's the next thing in iteration in your primary businesses? You own a strength and conditioning facility and you own a CrossFit gym. What's next for that little conglomerate? Where do you plan on taking that in 5 years?
So with the CrossFit gym, that's a legacy thing. So that one I want to have my hands on for a long time, even if it's just mentoring the people that are running the day-to-day over the long term.
Okay.
But yeah, with that one, I want to see it get to $1 million run rate. I think it's totally possible with 9,000 square feet and the level of talent that we have. And we're just getting started in terms of being able to attract higher level talent based on the opportunities that we've created. Words getting out, people are more interested. We did a recent post. I mean, I think I did a couple posts and that was it. And we got 6 people interested in personal training. So it's to be a personal trainer. So, I think the word is out on the street that we are doing things differently here. As for the strength and conditioning gym, it's a much smaller, refined opportunity. So for me, again, it's a legacy thing. But with that, I would love to see one of my staff take it over in the long term. That's one that I would love in 5 years to be sitting on my porch, drinking coffee, reading a book, hopefully not on leadership at that point, but on something else, and knowing that that place is still running and it's still doing its thing and it's still helping kids find their way to college and get some or all of their college paid for. It's helping kids find their voice and their confidence and, just training the next level of good people that are going to enter the world with work ethic and understanding a work ethic and everything else they need to succeed.
I love it. I love it, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a necessary thing as far as like what a cool life cycle of an entrepreneur, though, to be able to build something and then pass it on to like the younger generation, if you will, to continue the legacy of what you're doing is in the overall impact you're making in your community. And that's tremendous, man. So that said, so we've discussed your primary businesses. Where would you like to be in 5 years? I know you're not going to be reading leadership books. I would take offense to that a little bit. I say your leadership growth and your financial aptitude are two things that never stop, or they're going to be your limiters for sure. So where are you going? What do you want to be doing personally in that same time? Like, you're gonna be sitting on your porch drinking coffee, having passed on that one business. Are you mentoring? Are you living off real estate? Are you investing in other things? Where's your head at?
I think 5 years, I have multiple income streams: real estate, coaching, business coaching. Those are probably the two main ones, but obviously I hope to have multiple businesses, whether it's another franchise in a different sector or a different area.
Yeah.
Just multiple things where I'm creating opportunities for other people that also generate some income for myself. So I don't have to necessarily rely on it and hold other people down from making a living. But it also means it requires very little time from me. In 5 years, I want to be at every baseball game. I want to be at every soccer, whatever he's doing, whatever my son's doing, I want to be there. Dropping them off at school or picking them up. Right now, I'm almost there as it is. I pick them up from school 3-4 days a week. I had to drop them off this morning, so it kind of threw my schedule off, but that's fine. Made it to this on time. So, for me, it's just being involved, being an involved parent, living the day that I want, the schedule that I want, having that time to sit on my porch, whether it's up in the mountains at our mountain house or it's at home soaking in vitamin D, reading a book, drinking coffee, knowing that whatever primary things I have to get done that day are going to get done regardless if I do it at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. or 2 p.m.
Yeah.
And just putting a lot of focus into real estate, I think at that point, that's the one that has really perked and has always perked my interest. And, up until I met you and got into a group where I saw people doing it, it was just always there on the periphs.
Yeah.
Right. Like it was always there. I always knew that was something. I had read books on it. I, had been in the industry at certain times in my life. But until I saw other people doing it that looked like me, feel like me, well, didn't look like me, but everything else was the same. And I was like, all right. I dove headfirst in at that point. I went from, having a primary residence to 4 properties in 18 months. And then, 4 doors. And then in the 2-year span since, I'm looking at moving into 8-10 doors on my next purchase. So
that's how it's done, man. Roll them up. And then we have to be careful that we're not chasing doors though. Yep. And because you can get caught up in that cycle too. It's like we're chasing profitability. What can make you the most amount of money and with the least amount of headaches possible. So that said, you kind of alluded to the fact that you're in the Tactical Empire inner circle. Let's talk about that for a minute. Tell me your thoughts. You were in Birmingham. Tell me your thoughts on what you think of the inner circle and what you've gotten from that.
Man, it's such a powerful opportunity for anyone that gets into it. I think I've invited like 10 friends. So I hope if any of you are watching and you haven't joined the free community, my foot's going up your ass. Cause that was, I was a real nice guy to even think of you. Cause it's a fucking powerful thing. So man, Birmingham was different. I've been to a lot of these different things. I've been to a lot of masterminds, a handful of different versions, in different sectors and spaces, fitness, real estate. I felt like, because it is a men's group, it's a little different that you can be yourself in a different way in terms of like, you can just be outspoken about it as a husband and a father in ways like that, where there's a lot of understanding. And I think that's really powerful. I think, and I was having this conversation with my wife. She's like, people are worried you're gonna have a heart attack because you eat meat. And I'm like, they should be more worried I'm gonna have a heart attack because, as men, we have to carry everything. We have to carry the burden of everything, and generally silently, because that's the way society likes it. Yep. So when you get into these rooms, you're able to kind of release that and go, where am I going wrong? And people can actually offer you real tangible advice. And I hate using the word safe space, but that's kind of what it is for men, right? Like somewhere where no one's going to, shit on you for being like, yo, my marriage is in the dumps. Mine's not, just for example purposes.
Right.
Or like, man, my kid keeps sleeping in our bed. What do I do? Or, so stuff like that was really important to me on a personal life level. And then it's where I had the epiphany. I got to get rid of this short-term rental and I got to do some things with my businesses because they're not serving me and where I want to be in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest thing is like, it's just, I think it's important to have more awareness. Cause like we were talking about, you float through life otherwise. Cause you can busy your way to 70 years old and dead. And it's very easy. We have enough inputs coming all around us at all times that we could literally coast through our entire lives. I'm really happy you brought that up though, about like husbands and wives. I mean, that's why we bitch at you guys all the time. You better be dating your wife. Like we need to, because for me, the biggest gap I see going on and what I wanted to create within the group is a space where we support marriages. We support being great fathers. And we're also over here doing these things that we want to pursue our professional dreams and financial goals and all this other stuff, but while having a certain set of values regarding our families and regarding like, I think that that's the way like we're going to fix everything in society It's going to be entrepreneurs, and it's going to be getting back to like focusing on what's important for us. And what's important at the end of the day is truly your family. And so, yeah, man, like that means a lot that you brought that up. I sometimes I overlook that because everybody's like, talk about real estate, talk about real estate. And like, I do think that if you ask all the men in the group, like that's the most powerful part of it and the most unique part of it. It's also why we don't allow any women in, just because it changes the dynamic, quite frankly. And to your point, I have nothing against women making money and being great wives and stuff like that. That's just not what we're doing. And so, yeah, man. You also kind of reiterated the shared value system and where you want to be in 5 years, because you're going to show up at all the ball games, you're going to be available and for everything your son wants to do, right? And so I think it's important to make sure that you like to understand that you can have it all. I think that's part of what we struggle with. You're like, oh yeah, we're shouldering all the burden and we have to do it silently, so there's not a lot of people that can relate or understand what we're going through. And that's especially true in business in general. But to have a group of people that understand, like most people think that when it comes to your family or something, it's this or that. It's a binary choice. Like you can spend all the time with your kids you want, but you'll be fucking broke. And like, I just don't accept that. And I don't accept that premise. And so what I want is to understand that we can be great husbands, we can be great fathers, and we can still make a fuckload of money. And none of that is bad. And so that's what's really powerful about the group. And I think that it's really hitting its stride as far as cohesiveness is going. We're seeing a lot of things pop up as far as opportunities and JVs and things like that. And so it's nice to see and people getting to know each other better and supporting each other in different ways with their different expertise. Because I'm only the facilitator of the connections is how I see myself in that group. I'm not like the end all be all, like of the knowledge, if you will, or the experience. I want to bring together a ton of experienced, talented people that share a set of values and that are pursuing the same things in their own way, right? And so that's awesome, man. Do you have anything else to say or anything else to add?
Yeah, I think, like you said, when we talked originally about mindsets and people like living in the bare minimum, people are going to say, well, you can do that. You can meet with any of your friends and talk about this stuff, but I can't because they're so mentally frazzled from the bare necessities of getting by and when they're going to finally get back to the couch and catch that show or binge Netflix, whatever. They're frazzled. They can't take on any of my mental burden.
Sure.
Right. So it's like getting in these rooms, it goes beyond just that. You're getting with a bunch of people that have the space and the capacity to shoulder what you're saying and then give you back honest feedback rather than a short, snippy response because they didn't filter any of it. It's just, it hit and bounced right back because they don't have any room to discuss your burdens. They got too many of their own.
Sure. Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, it's just a fun group. It's fun to be around a bunch of guys that supporting each other and supporting each other winning and understanding that it's not all wins. Because we're throwing up a bunch of losses as we go. That's for sure. And yeah, man, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on, and I appreciate having you in the group. Your perspective is always one that I think is very measured. And so it's much appreciated. And your panache for highfalutin restaurants will never fail. That's for sure. Oh man, you've got your reputation to precede you in all the groups.
Hey, I do what I do. I don't hide it from anybody, right? I'm not going to change. I do what I do.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all, man. Hey, do you have anything for the folks as we head out, or any thoughts or contributions?
Yeah, I think if you're in my situation, if you're watching this, you're overweight, or you're wondering where to start with that. in my personal opinion, if you look at a hierarchy of needs, your health should be number one. So if your foundation is not solid, just focus on that. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about anything else. Just get the things done you need to get done and carve out that hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes. If that's what it takes to start, that's where I started, was 10-minute walks, and just get your health right. Once your health is right, you're going to notice your family, which is the second level for me, is going to improve immediately, because you're just going to have more bandwidth. You're going to have more ability to pay attention. You're going to have more energy for your wife and your kids, or your husband, whoever. You're going to, once that's done, you're going to notice all of a sudden you have more bandwidth for your business or your 9 to 5 or a side hustle. And so these things just kind of stack themselves up. But if you're overweight or you think it's not possible, I'm a living example of what a couple years can do, losing weight, and like all the things that just snowball from that effect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great, man. And what we always say is you are the asset. If you're not taking care of yourself first and foremost, you can't feed all these other areas that you want to. And so that's tremendous, man. Your journey has been fun to watch. Your level of discipline you've been able to develop over time has been fun to watch. I love just in real time watching you recognize more and more opportunities and recognize that you have additional bandwidth to take those on now because of the work you've done in the gym, in the work you've done with your leadership, the work you've done with your mental game. I mean, all of it has been acutely recognized by me, but also I think those around you can see the growth that you're participating in. So congratulations, man. Kudos. Keep it up. You're changing lives in a lot of different ways. Your example, first and foremost, and then the businesses you own and run. Where can people find you, Chris, if people want to follow you? We already talked about the Morning Dig podcast. Go ahead and make sure you subscribe to the Morning Dig. Where else can they find you, Chris?
Yeah, you can find me there on YouTube. I'll be dropping other podcast formats here in the next month on there as well. And then in terms of social media, you can find me on Instagram at Lock34 and on Facebook, just Chris Williams.
All right. All right. We'll drop all that information in the show notes, guys. Thank you, Chris, for your time. And as always, have a wonderful week. Keep kicking ass. And we will see you guys next week. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for having me.